Today we're going to talk about the digital ecosystem and what's in it for convenience retailers and suppliers. Over the past couple of weeks, we've had a couple different podcasts where we focused on different elements where convenience stores are really exceeding. A couple weeks ago was on the embrace of food service. Last week it was on the cultural embrace of convenience stores within our industry. I want to think of today as the third in a three-part series on our chance to play offense. And that's what the digital ecosystem really is all about. In having our conversation today, I'd like to welcome Stephanie Sikorski. She is Vice President of Strategic Initiatives at NACS and heads up the NACS digital ecosystem.
Hey, Jeff.
So I was reading an advance peek of the October issue in NACS magazine, and there's a whole bunch of featured articles in there, but there's one on the digital ecosystem that's a Q&A with you. And the phrase that really stuck out is that the digital ecosystem is a chance to play offense. And if you think about convenience stores for 98 years now, largely have been taking from other channels and building things out. Over the last couple of years, much more our industry is taking the lead, and others are looking to us to see how can they be more like convenience stores. But the digital ecosystem, I think, is another way of really pushing our industry forward. And I've used that phrase, digital ecosystem, 5 times now. Why don't we explain what it is? And I'll leave that up to you.
Sounds good. Well, anytime that I get to use some type of hockey reference, I'm going to slide that in. But really, this conversation goes back to, I feel like we're giving folks a peek behind the curtain to many of the conversations that you and I have, which largely involve a whiteboard or a what-if scenario. And I think the ecosystem is just another one of those examples. So when I first joined, it was you and I talking about Project Refresh, and it was all about the headlines. If we could put them down on paper or on a whiteboard or other, speak into existence and have those read in a positive way, imagine what that would look like. And I know sort of over the years, you've talked about that from the nutrition and what it would be for food service if we could talk about leading that. It led to 24/7 day with NACS Foundation and changing on its head what it meant to have 24/7 operations. And thank goodness that we do because of the role in communities and with first responders. And now here we are with a whole series, a digital ecosystem, as you've said, of digital solutions. And in many ways, this is just that next evolution of helping to rewrite those headlines and lean into the fact that we should be proud of the things that we're doing here. We just haven't had an opportunity to play offense. Like you said, we've been playing defense for the past little bit.
And when you talked about the Refresh project, that was all about changing the narrative that convenience stores don't sell much in the way of healthy food. We worked with a lot of groups, and we have accomplished that, although there's always more work to do. With fuels, there was a point 20 years ago where anytime gas prices either went up, went down, stayed the same, why are you guys gouging? Why is this going on? And we changed that narrative. And in both cases, we use this phrase, somewhat jokingly, somewhat serious, that this is going to be a 10-year overnight success. In other words, it's going to take time to build and to get a critical mass. But once that ball starts rolling, or in your hockey reference,
snowball?
that puck starts crossing, into the opponent's zone, then we start to gain momentum. And we've talked about TruAge over the years. TruAge fits under the digital ecosystem and was about its 6th year now. But this is the moment where we're really starting to see some real momentum in what's going on. But I guess backing up even further, the digital ecosystem is about how do we, when we talked about food service, it's the products we sell. When we talk about the customer experience and the cultural embrace, it's how do we sell them in stores? What the digital ecosystem brings forward is how do we sell beyond our stores? How do we tell our story? How do we engage with today's technology to take us to tomorrow? And first and foremost of those is TruAge as the age verification uh, standard, if you will, now a de facto standard.
And now the
That
global standard.
yes,
That
but for those not familiar with TruAge, let's start out with that, and we can build out on some of the other products that are out there that are just leaning into the idea of combining digital with physical.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. I think we're approaching 6 years now. So if I use your 10-year overnight success, hopefully that doesn't mean I have 4 to go. But I think one of the things that you touched on, which is so true, and it's not just for folks that have the marketing and communication. I think it's anytime that you're talking about a big strategic initiative like this, that oftentimes you underestimate just how much education and awareness is needed when you're talking about changing perceptions, when you're talking about changing behaviors. And in many cases, this is a product that's doing both. And when we first sat down as a leadership team, and this was ultimately a decision that the NACS board of directors voted on a number of years ago, it truly was in the vein of helping to make sure that we were going to be better, not just for in that moment, but really tomorrow. And there was 2 different areas that we looked at. You and I have talked a little bit about this, but it was about risks and opportunities as any good strategic initiative should encounter. But at that time, we were seeing headlines that had youth vape and nicotine pouch concerns on the rise. We were seeing increased product restrictions and bans. There was regulatory pressure, especially in C-stores. And I wish some of these headlines, I could say those were in the past. But like with anything, it's just an evolving aspect of what the new is. But ultimately, we were looking at, could our social license to sell age-restricted products be at risk? And when you sell 50 million plus transactions a day inside the C-store space, that's 20 billion per year. That's an awful lot at risk. I think importantly, it's not just that it was about the products that we were carrying and the revenue that's associated with that, but more importantly, it was also about making sure that there was youth access prevention at the same time. And it was, as in you've talked about a number of these different things, we're not just convenience stores, we're community stores, right? And this was a perfect example of making sure that we could protect some of that baseline business, that we could make sure that folks looked at us as responsible retailers and responsible manufacturers, but that we could help to future-proof the channel for new categories that were coming in. Cannabis, now we talk about intoxicating hemp beverages, over-the-counter pharmaceuticals, and then let's not forget about our digital devices. So we could see that that future was coming, and we wanted to make sure that there was something that could move across channels, that it wasn't built just for convenience, but it was an opportunity for convenience, given how many transactions and the products that we carry, to lead in that gold standard.
And one of the things I was just thinking back, it's the 20th anniversary roughly of when we moved the NACS trade show. We had our Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. We were supposed to have our trade show there. We wound up moving it 10 weeks later to Las Vegas, had 22,000 people. But it's those unexpected things that happen along the way. We got together, we said, who needs to do what? Can we do it world class? What needs to come off the plate? And then there's things you just don't anticipate. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting coming out of this is, okay, we're all set. We're going to Las Vegas. Everything's been thought out. And then it's like, okay, we're having this event the week before Thanksgiving. We can't find any refrigerated trucks. And it's because they're all full of turkeys and they're all, ready to distribute. So we had to shake loose some refrigerated trucks. TruAge has nothing to do with turkey. But the point is that when you build something that's never been built before, there's going to be things that you don't anticipate, because if it were easy, it would have been done. And so just building out that structure and building out that trust over the last 6 years has I think been has been a monumental task, but it's also been something that we went in thinking we can do and starting to see much more in the way of momentum around that it will happen because it is happening.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I feel like, I mean, we've talked about this. We could write a book on all the things that, having opened doors and gone around corners that I can see now would have been different shorthands. But I also think it's part of the learning experience here. We underestimated what it would take for just integrated with native point of sale systems, underestimated just the mechanics and process, which ultimately process being due diligence, right? At the end of the day, in terms of what it takes to get through lab systems, major oil companies. But in saying that, having a fully integrated system that works and helps folks with compliance, helps folks with speed, helps folks with privacy, we should be really proud as an industry that we're driving something like this forward, and super grateful to those that have gone through all the iterations and processes with us to get here. And as you were talking about your turkey, and the trucks and the pivots, I was thinking back to this conversation that we were having around, at the time it was the age verification project, because at NACS, that's what we do. We come up with something super slick and savvy, but age verification project. And talk about learning curve. It was myself and a handful of you all. We were sitting in Henry Armour's house after a staff leaders retreat, just talking about, where we should play and how we should play. And I think one important thing that I forgot to mention before was making sure that we could do this for the greater good, right? And that's one of the things that really matters to me in all of these initiatives. It's not about a revenue driving for profit, put other folks out of business. It's truly trying to level the playing field and make sure that it's something that our industry, whether you're one store or 5,000 stores plus, could benefit. And so it was that thinking from our side of being NACS, the National Association of Convenience Stores, or in this case, global, and 152,000 sites, and thinking more about like what that would look like if we were driving a nonprofit company and a solution forward for greater good. And I think that's been really rewarding to build something that's about doing the right thing across our industry, making it available to folks so that we could continue to do the right things in our communities.
So you've been traveling the country, the world, in going to meetings and evangelizing or communicating or testing or doing all kinds of things. Anything particularly stand out from the last couple months in any of your travels related to TruAge?
Yeah, I think it's been rewarding to be on the road, and it doesn't matter if we're doing something at the state level or we're sitting across from attorneys generals, or in a couple weeks it'll be in Brussels, sitting on a panel there talking about age verification standards and what youth access prevention looks like at a global stage. I think it's the fact that we have a seat at the table. And it's not just about convenience operators or manufacturers that are sitting there. It's us sitting next to the likes of Google and Amazon, and other players. And again, it's a really proud moment that we're building something for the right reason, and we've gotten the attention of regulators, of big businesses, and it all came out of convenience.
One final thing on TruAge, was it April or May? We were joking, say it's the standard, the de facto standard, but TruAge truly is the de facto standard for age verification, and that was announced in April, I believe.
Yeah, you're right. It was early spring, and kudos to the team at Connexus, because I think sometimes we overlook what it means to have a standard, and truly something that can be used across multiple platforms and products and things developed. But it was the World Wide Web Consortium, better known as W3C, and it's really a coalition of folks that make up things like Department of Homeland Security, the Googles, the Microsofts, and others. And it's these standards that are recognized by that body that ultimately become the standards that are used in new developments. And I think it's amazing to have TruAge as part of that standard. And that, as you talked about, traveling around, that has certainly opened up doors for conversation and given us a whole lot more credibility around what we do beyond just the volume of age checks that we do, but it's the fact that we're doing it right.
So the idea of the digital ecosystem, way back from the beginning with TruAge, was there's more to this than one application. That people's digital wallets are valuable. The ability to download an app, to trust someone, to have your information within their cell phone, on their browser, or whatever it is. But the goal was to use TruAge and a portfolio of other digital ideas that could also play in, as I was saying earlier, expand the store. So TruAge is about age verification. And by the way, all these things, when you go to the NACS show, it's going to be in the digital ecosystem booth. It has a fancier name than that, but
future of convenience.
Future of convenience. But it's a chance to come and learn more about that. There's TruAge. Probably the second one that came out of that was Thriver. And Thriver, and by the way, all these digital ecosystem things, they hate the E. So however you think you should spell it, just lop off an E and you're good on the spelling. But Thriver is about how do you find basically new ways to communicate your digital message before somebody's in the store, and then combine the digital and the physical as much as physically possible.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, in all of these things, it was covering first mile and last mile and everything in between. And for this one, it's about creating a stronger digital presence. And what the heck does that mean? Well, it means when you search for something, be it ATM near me, coffee near me, restaurant near me, because of the space that we're playing in, making sure that you actually show up. And then showing up is part of it, right? It's also making sure that across social that there's engagement opportunities and that folks can find you in that way, that they can comment, that you can provide information about loyalty programs, that you can tout what your latest limited time offer is or BOGO. And then the reputation management, because the reputation one is the one that'll stick with you if you're not able to carefully monitor that. And, this is another situation. You and I talked about leveling the playing field. Like, it is tough to try and manage all of those. I think a lot of times we think that there's only Facebook or LinkedIn. Maybe someone thinks about Yelp, but there are dozens of different social media metrics. And then when you throw in your car system, just like asking for information, it's tough to keep up with that. And it doesn't matter, again, whether you're, a smaller operator or larger operator, you have no team or lots of team members, having this single platform where you can make just sweeping updates, whether it's your hours of operation or your photos, every single one of those things matter.
Yeah, and I think what the three of the most common search terms are: open, less of a concern for convenience stores because they tend to be open, and near me. And I spend time on the road a lot too, and we each have our favorite ways to look up a restaurant, and we each have our different minimums. Like if I don't see a rating above this, nope, they're off the list, can't go there. But the other thing is when I look at some place and I'll see like there hasn't been a review in 4 months. And that just sends a note to me like, are they even open anymore?
Yeah.
So, how do you make sure that it seems like you're actually in business and it's not something from 2023 or something like that, or the last 3 reviews are negative, or all those things that even though it may only be the only time I'm going to eat there because I'm from out of town, it just snowballs from there. I give that a good review. I come back and tell somebody, you got to try this. And then all of a sudden, that virtuous cycle starts spinning in the right direction.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I think the other thing, especially for our industry, we might think of 24/7 operations. And so why do hours even matter? But think of the times that, I mean, we've talked about this for NACS Foundation. I mean, one of the genius parts of 24/7 day was that not everything is open in the case of an emergency. So this is a platform that allows you to make some of those sweeping changes when everything else might be closed. I mean, being able to have that indicator that you are still available, whether it's for emergency vehicles or folks that are coming or going from town to get out safely or come back home safely, those little things make a really big difference.
And so that's another product that's available in the future of convenience. And the third one I just wanted to cover is Prosper. And again, they hate the E's. But
You're not going to let
what's
that go, are you?
no, I'm not going to let that one go. That's my hill. But what's going back to what you're talking about, refresh. When I first started working with a bunch of nutrition groups 10, 15 years ago, some of the things they talked about are how you can get a prescription for produce. And that's one of the things, double up bucks, things like that. And I started hearing about coupons, and it's like, wow, that's really neat. How it's targeted for grocery stores, but there's got to be convenience applications, and Prosper is essentially those convenience applications, but it doesn't have to be around fruits and vegetables. It can be about anything that has a discount that is offered digitally.
No, you're exactly right. This is about modernizing how we think of those clip and save coupons. So, moving us away from print, as much as you like to print, Jeff, everyone is moving to mobile. So, moving to where you can have everything on your digital device. So, we talked about TruAge as one example of that. I think Prosper is another, and Thriver, certainly folks are walking down the street in their car, et cetera, looking for things. So this is where we start to build on that concept of ecosystem that you've mentioned a couple times now. And it's really about, there's the beauty of being able to use each one of these to independent. But if you imagine driving in your vehicle or walking down the street and asking for, closest fill in the blank near me, and receiving that information, of course, there's 5 stars, which is what
Mm-hmm.
you'd be looking for. And
From the last couple of days.
Right.
Yes.
And proximity that's there. Perhaps there's a coupon for you to be able to use, which would be the Prosper component. Maybe it's something that while you're inside, you see that there's, age restricted product of choice. It's a football weekend. Someone's there to grab their beer, and it's being able to check out once you're on site. So there are ways for these to be able to satisfy all of those components, and certainly for folks that are looking for the loyalty app integration and helping to keep within their own ecosystem.
So you had said, I do love paper. We still get a newspaper delivered to our house every day, including Sunday. And the Sunday has the circulars, and we used to go through with the scissors and cut those out. But we don't do that anymore.
All right.
We go to the various apps, and it's like, okay, what is the discount? What's going on here? It's way more convenient, way easier to track. You don't have to pin them all to the fridge or in an envelope or something like that. And you can do it in the moment. You don't have to do it way in advance and see what's expired, et cetera. So I think there's a really bright future in that. Well, obviously, because it's a program that we have. But tying it all together, the final part of this digital ecosystem, you talked about the car. The car is a big communicator to people as well. It doesn't just drive you, it talks to you, it entertains you. You can ask it questions, and they're basically computers on wheels. And Charging Analytics is a program where we are able to really measure what's going on in cars when they charge, and how long are they charging, what are they charging near, and what are potential opportunities for people that service cars, whether it's with fuel and particularly with EV charging.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, the real power of this program is the insights that it gives around EV. And that can be evaluating market performance. It can be taking a look at existing chargers to see if there's other opportunities. But it's if you're looking at that, whether you're currently engaged in it or looking to get involved in that, it can truly help you maximize that investment. And so, in all of these things, I would say it's, sometimes technology, I think folks can find it off putting or it might be hard to learn. I don't think that it has to be that way. I think that there's a lot of smart technology. And with the NACS side of things, it's really about taking some of the guesswork out of that because you've got the trusted resource and the credibility of NACS, and in many of these cases connects us from the standard setting body. So we're doing a lot of the legwork to make that available, and then again, it's not about differentiating one company or another or one brand over another. It's truly about differentiating our industry over another.
And of course, with charging analytics, the idea is to not let your car fuel level go to E.
Yeah.
You knew I was going to work that in there. So, when you talk about NACS, when you talk about associations in general, they've really evolved, or they hopefully have evolved from membership based and send things to them a couple times a year, buy this, do this, to really how do you protect and expand the future of the industry. And part of that is obviously advocacy. It's what happens on Capitol Hill, what happens in state houses, it's what happens in the media, but it's also developing those tools that allow the stores to really expand and future proof their business. And we have this booth at the NACS show called The Future of Convenience. So I have to ask you the question, fill in the blanks here. The future of convenience is?
I'd say easy. Isn't that what it should continue to be? I mean, if we're going to talk about an evolution, I think it's a continued evolution towards easy. And I loved that article that you had written a few months ago, just talking about consumer perceptions around convenience. And I think if we're going to continue to own that idea, own that channel, own that concept, own those consumers, and those relationships, that is our foundation, cannot screw that up.
That's, I think, a pretty great way to summarize things, because when you talk to people, whether it's I talk to my kids or I talk to friends or I talk to whatever, and they say, what is it? If it's easy, you lead with, it's easy. Let me show you how. It's not, well, there's an algorithm and this takes place, blah, blah, blah. Is it easy or is it not easy? This is easy. Check it out at the NACS show. Reach out to Steph. Steph, what are the best ways to get a hold of you or to find out more about some of these things so retailers can make their lives a little bit easier?
I think you touched on it. I mean, the easiest way, we'll use that, is to stop by the Future of Convenience booth. You can't miss us at the NACS show. We'll be right next to the big dome, next to NACS Pack outside of the expo. But this is where you can view it as kind of a lab. You can step in and demo what it looks like, as we say, both sides of the counter. So consumer and retailer as well, from Thriver, Prosper, TruAge, EV charging. We'll have all of those live for folks to be able to experience it. And I think just ask questions. I think the best thing that we can do in our industry is not to be afraid of testing and learning, because the speed at which these things are evolving is continuing to move faster. And to be able to come in and ask the same questions that all of us are asking and kind of build and explore together is the best way.
I think you also see that in retail when you go into a store and they're doing something slightly different. That's cool. It's at first it's like, oh, I don't know how to react, and then it's like, how could I possibly survive without this?
Well,
And
I think
that's I think what change is all about.
That's exactly it. We've been mentioning that a little bit with TruAge as of lately. And I think we got ahead of ourselves in saying, it's the future of digital age verification. And the part that we forgot to say is it's today and tomorrow. So it doesn't change how we do traditional driver's license scans today. It is absolutely ready for digital wallets and mobile IDs of the future. And based on all the travels that we have, all the conferences and others, it's my prediction that for a lot of folks, the speed at which that will change is going to feel a little bit like we felt when ChatGPT was announced. Some of us will be like, oh, we've been talking about that for a while. And I think other folks will feel like it just happened overnight. And I say that with the comfort of knowing that this is why NACS is building these things. It's to make sure that we're ready for the things that are coming, but we haven't lost sight of the things that we need right in front of us today to continue to provide that best experience for our guests.
Perfect way to sum up the episode. Read more about it in the October issue. Find Steph at the NACS show. Find Steph online. Find Steph on the road. And thanks for joining us today, Steph.
Thanks so much.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.